So the other day, I was looking at the press releases, as I do when I'm getting information ready to present here at Low Income Relief, and I noticed an interesting new press release from the Department of Labor. And usually I don't look into those in any great amount of detail, but I saw a key phrase in there that got me really concerned for those of you who follow this channel. And I wanted to dive into that today and talk to you a little bit about what I found and what it could mean for people who were receiving public assistance in the United States right now. And by public assistance, I mean pretty much any form of benefit program. So, like I said, the Department of Labor released this press release on August 12th. It announced the publication of a new milestone report called America's Talent Strategy Building the Workforce for the Golden Age. And you can see a screenshot of that report there on screen. The line that got my attention was that they need to bring more Americans into the labor force. And that really got my attention because there's only so many ways to do that, right? And that got me thinking about those of you who are receiving benefits, whether that's, SNAP or Medicaid or Social Security or what have you, and what this could potentially mean. So I decided to do a deeper dive into this. And I actually read that entire report word for word. It was long, it was tedious, it was boring. But today I'm going to talk to you about the highlights of what I found in there because they're not even being shy about it. They pretty clearly state that the objective here is to get everyone off of assistance and back into the workforce in any capacity that they're able to handle. So, over the next few minutes, I want to explain to you what's changing, who's going to be affected, and what you can do to hopefully protect yourself before these changes go into effect. But of course, before we get into those details, we just need to drop a quick word from our sponsor. This is the service that I use to delete my information from the internet. They're the only ones I trust. It's Delete Me. They're fantastic. I've used them for years. Before I signed up for Delete Me, I was getting tons of spam calls. I had people from this channel who were finding my personal phone number and it was ringing at all hours. Things were getting really hard. I signed up for this service and I have not had a problem since. So I love Delete Me. If you're interested in also removing your data from the web, I highly recommend the service that they provide there. Now, with that in mind, let's dive into this report. So I'm just going to read you this direct quote from one of the pages of the report. It says, an increasing number of Americans are disengaged and disincentivized from returning to work, with more than 21 million Americans aged 25 to 54 not participating in the labor force. At the same time, America's workforce is aging, with millions of experienced workers retiring and fewer younger workers entering the pipeline to replace them. In order for our economy to enter its next golden age, it is imperative that more Americans enter the labor market. So, that right there says a lot, I think, because we're talking about potentially older workers needing to come back into the workforce. We're talking about people maybe on disability, people who are getting benefits in some way that aren't currently participating in the labor force and wanting to bring those people back in there. So I also pulled some other quotes here to kind of illustrate how they see this going. So, of course, it says the departments will prioritize outreach to long-term unemployed and underemployed populations, including those who have left the labor force entirely. And that is a direct quote. Now, I know from other research that I have done for this channel that a lot of those people who are unemployed or underemployed are dealing with medical issues that they can't get treated because they can't get the health care they need because they can't put in the hours required to get the benefits to get the health care that they need. And they're kind of caught in that doom spiral there. Losing Medicaid is certainly not going to help the people in that situation. Aside from that, I also know that there are plenty of people in that category who are moms who are working as much as they're able, but they can't offset the cost of childcare. So logically, it doesn't make sense for them to put in more hours because they would just end up paying all of that and maybe more to the childcare facilities that they would need. So there's a lot of very legitimate barriers as to why low income people may be unemployed or underemployed in the eyes of the Department of Labor that makes sense for their situation, whether that's medically or due to a family status, or maybe they're caregiving for a loved one or what have you. Now, in addition to that, I'm sure a lot of you will find this quote not surprising at all. It says, "The enhanced work requirements for able bodied adults without dependents enacted through the One Big Beautiful Bill will fuel these efforts to reconnect Americans with the dignity of work." So they haven't exactly been shy about the idea that they are cutting back those benefits. They're implementing more work requirements. They're making it harder to get the help that you need in the hope that you're just going to go back to the workforce. And I don't think they are necessarily in touch with the reality that some people are out of the workforce for reasons that can't be fixed just by denying them benefits. In addition to that, here's another quote and it says, "The Department of Labor will maximize the skills training and work opportunities available to able-bodied adults without dependents through the public workforce system and help these individuals transition off public benefits and become economically self-sufficient." So there again, they're saying that their goal is to make sure that anyone who's receiving assistance is getting that work training, that skills training that they need to get off the benefits and back into the workforce. And then, of course, it also says targeted approaches will be developed for recruiting men aged 25 to 54 who are statistically the most disconnected from the labor force. So, along with that, it also says the departments will also support workforce strategies that strengthen transitions into employment for populations such as veterans and individuals who were formerly incarcerated. Now, that will be interesting to see because one of the things we've struggled with in the years that I've been running low income relief is the inquiries from people who were formerly incarcerated who can't find the sort of work opportunities that they need. So if they're able to ease that, that would certainly be helpful. And then, of course, you also have the veteran population, right, who may be struggling with things like PTSD, or they may be waiting for disability determinations from the Department of Veterans Affairs, which can take a really long time. But until those decisions are made, it can look like these veterans are just withholding themselves from the workforce when really they're grappling with disabilities and injuries and what have you. And of course, it says the departments will also focus on the rapid reemployment of dislocated workers. The Department of Labor will also work with states on opportunities to align UI claimants with the quickest path to return to work. UI, of course, being unemployment insurance. So, as a result of this, I would expect to see changes in how the unemployment program works, possibly enacting new trainings or shifting people to careers that are more aligned with the government's current goals, which we'll go over in a minute because they weren't shy about what kind of work they want to see people doing either. Now, if you're thinking that you are safe from this because you were already employed, I found this quote really interesting, and it says, "Meeting critical industry workforce needs will require not only engaging the unemployed, but also supporting the voluntary redeployment of workers currently employed in other sectors. In some cases, the only viable path to closing talent shortages in high priority industries will involve workers leaving their current jobs to pursue new opportunities that better align with national economic needs." I'm not going to share my opinion too heavily on my interpretation of that quote because I do try to keep this channel fairly non controversial, fairly non political. But we are talking about possibly seeing workers shifted from whatever they're currently doing to whatever the government has decided those national economic needs are. So that is something to be aware of. Now, there are some big changes that are being discussed in this document. Some of these I wholeheartedly support. Workforce services being centralized in one streamlined, coordinated system sounds like a big improvement in efficiency, since right now those programs are scattered in a lot of different areas, and it can legitimately be hard for someone who's seeking workforce services to connect with those in a way that is effective and easy and able to generate meaningful results. In a lot of cases, it can be quite a headache to coordinate with all of the different services that are out there across all the departments that they're in. Now, it's also interesting to note that this document outlines that businesses will be the ones designing those workforce trainings so that you are basically being trained to fill the jobs that they are looking to have filled, which is supposed to result in you learning what pays and getting hired faster. They're also pushing more ways to get hired without a 4-year degree. There's a big focus on paid apprenticeships, short, easy to earn certificates, things like that, that will help get those results very quickly. Another thing that they're talking about is making sure that programs are scored by their effectiveness, and any programs that aren't generating good results will be eliminated, and those budgets will be shifted to the programs that are actually getting people in jobs. And of course, this is a direct quote from the document, and it says AI is transforming work faster than the workforce system can adapt, and workers will require new skills to share in the prosperity that AI will create. Without greater agility in the system, the United States risks falling behind in the race to develop an AI ready workforce. I mean, this is undeniable, right? AI has had just absolutely huge impacts on the way that work is done, on the way that my work is done, and the work in many other industries. Now, that being said, I really do hope that we all get to share in the prosperity that AI will create, because I know that a lot of people are prospering as the result of AI, but those tend to be the people who are, creating and running that system. Now, in addition to the focus on AI, we're also seeing a focus on manufacturing. Another quote from the document says, for manufacturers alone, there are close to 500,000 open jobs today, and that number is expected to quadruple in coming years. The workforce system must be prepared to serve the needs of the companies whose investments will anchor America's reindustrialization. And of course, they also go on to say that it's important that the workforce meet the needs of the companies that are investing across America, including as part of this Department of Commerce program. Those, I assume, are going to be the companies who are going to be designing the training manuals and the training courses for this new golden age workforce reinvention program that's happening here. As a part of that, they also want to see 1 million active apprentices in the expanded registered apprenticeship program. And they plan on pushing workforce related content in K 12 beginning in fifth grade. There was a quote in there that said something to the effect of kids can't decide what kind of career they want until they've seen all the careers that are out there, which, I mean, there's definitely merit to that. But there is going to be a new focus on that career readiness in the K 12 system, it seems. Now, along with this, there's going to be a lot of AI implementation. So, for those of you who aren't comfortable with AI, you should be aware of this because it seems like it's going to be coming in force. They mentioned that career coaching could be done virtually, in person, or through AI tools. They also mentioned that AI tools will be used to process participant intake, eligibility determinations, help connect job seekers to multiple programs, etc. And again, we're also seeing that recurring theme of data sharing and talking about breaking down those information silos and getting all of that information shared between departments, which of course makes things easier for AI to access as well, of course. And they also said that a lot of these workforce services may be piloted at libraries, community centers, faith based groups, places that people already trust and go to for assistance as well. Now, along with this, I want you to know that they've also proposed eliminating several programs that focus on job readiness, training, education, that sort of thing. And some of these are programs that we've discussed on this channel previously. These include things like the Job Corps, Senior Community Service Employment Program, the Adult Education Program, and others. They basically said that they are going to make it easier for agencies to terminate grants that are failing to meet benchmarks, and they're really going to be focusing on taking the money away from programs that don't work and shifting it to programs that do work, which obviously is a wise decision to make. Now, there is some good news to all this. If you've gotten this far in the video and you have a very sinking doomsday feeling, I do apologize. It's never my goal to stress you out or to make you fearful. I try to focus on bringing you guys news that is helpful and actionable and upbeat and good, because I don't want to add to that burden of stress that I know that you're already carrying, right? I care about you a great deal. So I do want to highlight the good news that's in here because there is some good news. So, first of all, the departments have all been instructed to explore ways to ease the benefits cliff. And I'm sure you all know what that is, right? That's when you find out that you got a $2 raise and then suddenly you lost, $400 a month in food stamps or whatever. I know that because we've lived that story before. Back in the day when my kids were really young, my husband got a raise, but then we found out that he was making $1, I kid you not, $1 over the SNAP income limit, and we lost our food benefits entirely almost immediately. And it ended up being a net negative for our family. Like, he made progress at his job and we lost. And we've covered that extensively in some of the articles on our website, because we've seen where some states like Washington bump up the minimum wage and then people lose all their benefits. And then they have like a net negative of like crazy amounts of money every year. The benefits cliff is a very real problem that keeps a lot of people very trapped. And so, if they are going to take this seriously and work on easing that benefits cliff, I think that's going to go a long way toward helping people to re enter the workforce and move forward with things. Now, they've also said that they are instructing the departments to partner with community organizations, employers, and faith based groups to build trust, raise awareness, and offer supportive services such as childcare, transportation, and behavioral health support that help individuals overcome structural barriers to employment. Now, I am really interested to see how that is going to look in practice, because we have seen a lot of benefits being pulled back, scaled back, cut. If they want more people in the workforce, we're going to have to see more of that childcare support, right? We're going to have to see more options for people who need help taking care of kids or loved ones or getting transportation to and from jobs. I know that is a huge barrier as well. So we'll be watching closely to see how that is rolled out. And of course, I will hop back on here and report to you anything that I find in terms of actionable ways that that assistance is being implemented. But I'm glad to see them acknowledging as they're rolling this out that they're going to need to take some steps to make it easier for people to keep and improve their jobs, including making that benefits cliff less of a threat. Now, they are also looking for different ways to help fund this job training. And they are, in this document, making a notable shift away from the idea of college for everyone to more of a workforce training focus. They are looking at different ways of funding the training. There are going to be new workforce Pell Grants that roll out that can be used to help pay for workforce training programs instead of college programs. They're also looking at easing some licensing rules, because sometimes it's hard to move across state or switch into in-demand careers or get jobs in certain fields. So the Labor Department is expected to lead a review of what rules are holding people back, especially in fields that are currently experiencing worker shortages. Now, if you're disabled and you're finding this all very overwhelming and intimidating, I totally understand. I have a lot of loved ones that struggle with disabilities that aren't well documented because they don't have the healthcare that they need, or they don't have the work credits that they need to be able to get these benefits. So, what I'm about to tell you, I'm telling you as a friend, right? I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a social worker, I don't work for the government. Those of you who are here on this channel already know this, but I want you to know, like, full disclaimer, I am just a person with a lot of research and a little bit of lived experience here, telling you that as this stuff goes down and as we see more of these benefits restricted and pulled back and more work requirements going into effect, your best line of defense is excellent documentation. If you are too disabled to work, I would strongly encourage you to apply for SSI, SSDI, VA benefits, whatever you may qualify for, so that you have that documentation, so that if those things start to become an issue for you, if you're asked to work or do things that you're not able to do, that you can provide that documentation in a quick and easy way. We do work with a sponsor injury claims who can help you file SSDI claims. They can help you appeal if you've previously been denied disability, whether that's with Social Security or VA. You can see the links for that there on screen. Now, if you're not a veteran, if you don't have the work credits for SSDI, if you don't have the ability to file for SSI, make sure that you maintain good medical records about your condition, your diagnoses, how they're affecting your daily life, how they affect your ability to perform the ADLs or the activities of daily living. That documentation is going to be stuff that you're going to need. And of course, if you're in a situation where you can't afford to go to the doctor, so you don't have the documentation, I know it's hard. Try to find a federally qualified health center. Those are usually sliding scale clinics. The wait times are atrocious. The care is generally not the greatest, but it's something, right? And at this point, you're going to need something, I would imagine. And again, like I said, I don't work for the government. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a social worker, blah, 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 blah. But it would make sense to me that as they crack down harder and harder and harder on these programs, that you're going to want more documentation available to defend yourself against those changes. And should it come to the point where you have to enter the workforce, remember that as a disabled person, you're eligible for reasonable accommodations, right? There are laws that are made to defend you and help you in those situations. And if you would like me to make a separate video on that, just let me know. I'm happy to help you in any way that I can, and our team is here to help you in any way that we can. I know this is a very difficult situation, and I know that a lot of changes are happening very quickly, and I know that can get really, really overwhelming. And I do apologize. Obviously, I'm not in charge of making any decisions anywhere, but when I read stuff like this, I know how much that affects you, and I worry about you guys a lot. So with that in mind, one more shout out to our sponsor, Delete Me. I love those guys. I use them myself. And I don't think there's any better endorsement than saying that this is like one service that I will have until I die, which is true. I will never not have Delete Me, because it's been so instrumental in the protection of my family. But anyway, I'll be back soon with hopefully better news for you. We've got a lot of great videos coming out about resources that can help you even during these difficult times when it feels like all those benefits are disappearing. So if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you go check out our other videos for more ways to save money and get free stuff. I'll see you there.